How's it going, everyone? Got quite a bit to talk about in this video. Unfortunately, a couple of games are officially shutting down. One of them, a longtime franchise from Ubisoft, the first game in the franchise, and then another game will be shutting down as well. And a bit of an update on Monster Hunter. Of course, Monster Hunter Wilds will be coming to PS5, Xbox Series, and PC in 2025. Bit of an update on that at the end of this video. But first of all, The Crew 1 has reached the end of the road. It has been delisted and servers will be shutting down soon. Now, obviously, The Crew has been a franchise that Ubisoft has actually been able to rely on and lean on. They did a follow-up title in The Crew 2, and then obviously earlier this year they dropped Crew Motorsport. But as far as The Crew 1 goes, the original game in this series, it has been pulled from sale, and the racing game servers will be shut down on March 31st. Now, this is a game that does need online connectivity to actually play the game, so if you're thinking about, having a copy of this game for offline play or anything like that, that will not be possible. This will essentially be a coaster. You see games like this every now and again where they are completely centric around online play. Massive Action game, for example. I gotta give my boys at Zipper Interactive and MAG a shout out because that was a game I played the hell out of back on the PlayStation 3. But that's one of those games, man. That game, if you have a physical copy of that, all that's good for is pretty much a coaster. And guess what? The Crew 1 gonna be pretty much a coaster come March 31st. Ubisoft shared an update on its official website along with memories and messages about the game, noting, "We understand this may be disappointing for players still enjoying the game, but it has become a necessity due to upcoming server infrastructure and licensing constraints. Decommissioning a game, and especially our first one, is not something we take lightly. Our goal remains to provide the best action-driving gameplay experience for players, and to deliver on it, we are continuing to provide new content and support for The Crew 2 and the recently launched The Crew Motorfest." Really, at this stage of the game, I can't imagine that there are people that are playing The Crew 1, but it goes back into the rhetoric that a lot of people attach to. These games, when you do buy them, it's always unfortunate when they essentially become unplayable since you did spend your money on it, and that's become more of a talking point with everything going on with digital gaming, the discovery stuff with that content being pulled from digital libraries. Obviously, that's a whole other big can of worms that we've talked about in the past, but definitely something when you look at something like The Crew 1 also being shut down. All of those things are attached together, but this is a game that came out back in 2014. It is a game that got 2 follow-up titles. I know that the idea of games shutting down is always going to be a thing, and why doesn't the game have an offline mode? You could have easily, for a game like The Crew, you could have implemented some sort of offline mode where people would be still able to play the game even if it does go offline. It's an always online game, so it's not going to be that case. I think some people are going to get confused when it comes to a game like The Crew, thinking that they can play it offline, because they're obviously The Crew, if you look at it from a game standpoint, you probably will compare it to other open world racers like a Forza Horizon. Well, a Forza Horizon is completely playable offline. The thing with Forza Horizon, much like a lot of racing games, is the issue is the licensing agreements. These deals that they have with the, car manufacturers and whatnot, they're usually time deals, so if you want to keep selling the game and everything like that, you have to renew those deals. That's why the older Forza Horizon games do get pulled from storefronts as well. And it's not only that, racing games, driving games tend to be one of those genres that do have licensed music as well, so that's an element of it that is also an issue when you talk about selling the game and keeping it running for a longer period of time. But nevertheless, The Crew will be shutting down come March of next year. Alright, moving on from that, another game shutting down in March of next year, that will be Rocket Arena. Rocket Arena, as noted on PSU, is the latest online multiplayer title to be sunset by EA and developer Final Strike Games, and the servers will be shut down on March 21st. The game dropped all the way back in July of 2020, and it is a game that started as a pay-to-play title and then ultimately did transition to a free-to-play game. Final Strike Games did keep updating the title, and 3 years is a lot longer than a lot of other games, so, it is what it is. EA was on the wave for a while of releasing a lot of these live service games, multiplayer-focused titles, and at least publishing these games. They're obviously not in-house developing all these titles, but, they published Knockout City initially, and there were a lot of titles that EA were publishing, and it's a topic we constantly talk about when you talk about these live service games and just spam releasing live service games. Look, everybody has it in their head that they have the same game plan when they go this live service route. Sony, Ubisoft, EA, they all do the same things, and it's about Let's throw as much stuff at the wall as we can. Something's gotta stick, right? If we throw 12, 15, 18 games at the wall over the course of 3 to 5 years, we gotta have at least a couple of games that are gonna be winners. But that is honestly such a depressing thought about game development as a whole if you go in with that mindset, and they probably won't, you know, outright tell you. Like, Ubisoft ain't gonna go on a conference call and be like, yeah, that's our game plan. But when you mass release live service games, anybody that can objectively assess the situation is gonna be like, okay, your game plan is, there's no way you're expecting 12, 15 games to be successful. But the difference when you do 12 to 15, let's say, single player games or games that aren't live service or anything like that, those are games that can still be sustained and the games won't have to be shut down and essentially die. In the case of these live service games, they are online focused, they are multiplayer centric, so when they shut down, that is them dying. You know, as much as Haze wasn't a great game back in 2008, you know what, that game still lives, and if I want to go buy a copy of Haze from 2008, I could go buy that game and I could still play it on my PlayStation 3. Shout out to Haze, but nonetheless, when you talk about these live service games, when they die, they just kind of die and you'll never hear about them ever again, and that's kind of the reality, which is kind of depressing. Look, I'm not saying like Haze was a gigantic commercial juggernaut, but at least the game is still alive and I could go buy it and I could play the campaign or whatever, so I just offer that to you guys. But nonetheless, a reality you do have to accept with the big emphasis on live service that it does seem like some developers and publishers are moving away from because they've realized that maybe it's not the play going forward. Lastly, I do want to know, Monster Hunter Wilds, one of the big announcements at the Video Game Awards. The official Twitter account noted Monster Hunter Wilds ushers in the next generation of Monster Hunter on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC and Steam in 2025. The team is hard at work and will be back with news in summer of 2024. In the meantime, we hope you enjoy celebrating the Monster Hunter 20th anniversary. Monster Hunter Wilds got a very brief trailer at the Video Game Awards. It was a very short trailer that just showcased, you know, kind of the setting of the game and the fact that the game was in development. I was actually thinking that this was going to be a title that came out a lot earlier than it is. It is scheduled for 2025. You know what? Capcom's been really good about hitting their release windows, and just because they say 2025, usually when a developer attaches a release window for a game very, like a bunch of years out, kind of hesitant in believing that, but with Capcom, outside of Pragmata, they've been very good about releasing their games very consistently, so that 2025 window I think is going to hit, and if it's a January release, much like Monster Hunter World was, I believe in January of 2018, that would be pretty cool as well. Monster Hunter Wild is going to be a big release, and it's going to be a game that you would have to think Capcom is going to be very consistent in updating as well, because they did a tremendous job with Monster Hunter Worlds for years, that when they ultimately did charge for a $40 expansion, oh, all day long, like, people were ready to pay $40, and they were just happy that they were getting more content. I foresee Wilds being a lot more of the same, so you kind of have a little bit of an idea of what Capcom's got slated for a little while. You know Resident Evil's going to be in the mix, but in March you got Dragon's Dogma 2. Sometime in 2025 you got Monster Hunter Wilds. I think there's going to be a notable title somewhere in between Wild and Dragon's Dogma 2. Could that be Pragmata? Could Pragmata see a 2024 release? I don't know about that. That game just seems to be one that is in flux as far as development goes, but we'll see how that turns out. I still want to get more Mega Man content, and there's a lot they can do. I mean, they could do a new Onimusha, they could do a new Okami. Capcom's got a bevy of IPs that they can invest into, and it's just good to see that they have got a consistent release pattern. But that'll be doing it for me. Again, the Crew 1 will be shutting down in March of next year. Kind of a reality when it does come to online gaming, and it has been delisted, so you can no longer buy it, and if you do have a physical copy, it's eventually gonna just be a coaster. Rocket Arena will shut down its servers in March of 24, and expect more information on Monster Hunter Wilds come summer of 2024. I imagine with that summer update, that's when we'll get the release date as well, which makes me think January might be pretty likely, or February, sometime early in 2025, if they're gonna announce that date in the summer of 24. But that'll do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.